options as far as replacement of police chief. After we looked through numbers and general account balances and whatnot, we had started to research the idea of a part-time position for police chief, which is a 29-hour work week. So that's a reduction in 11 hours per week. So it's a 29-hour work week that we seem to hone in on and research. So we've done our homework and researched it through the Auditor Generals, through the pension funds, through the FOP, and whatnot, and basically cleared the hurdles with all those options. The big thing that pointed out that was stuck out in our minds, and we have on paper, is that the benefit of keeping 9 police officers, so that's a total of 9 officers, which is current staffing, which takes care of our schedule plus 1. And with a part-time chief, there's a savings in there of over $56,000 in savings. We keep the same number of officers on, which is 9, which is the regular schedule plus 1. If we were to look to do a full-time police chief at this point, therefore bring everybody up through and basically not replacing an officer, it's a savings of $31,000. So after we've looked through this and discussed this as a committee, and I'll just bring it up because it will be items under discussion, obviously, we would like to make the motion to change the chief of police job description to a 29-hour per week position. I'll make that motion.
Motion by Brian, and second by Ron, to change the chief of police position to a 29-hour a week position. Are there questions?
You can kind of put numbers however you want to be seen. So I'm a firm believer in the numbers that Brian just read off aren't necessarily adding up to what they seem to be. So right now our department for the past, how many years has been operating off of 9 officers? Because of situations, so we intended to have 8, we ended up with 9. But our department is fully capable of running off of 8 members. So say we made the decision to hire within. So we decided to promote a chief within our police department. That'll still leave us with 8 officers, which will cut Officer Rick Weaver's salary totally out. So whatever was budgeted for him, that would be cut out of the equation, and we'd only need to operate off of the 8. We wouldn't need to hire one more. So we would just be cutting that position out, hiring within, promoting within. And in all honesty, I feel that is the 100% best decision for this borough to make, is by promoting within, allowing for other officers who have worked hard through these past years to take a step up, get into a leadership role, therefore not preparing us just for the next 2-3 years to come, but preparing ourselves to the next 5 to 10, 15 years to come. Because if you keep people as say, just a patrolman forever, when it's time to step up into another leadership role and you've never gotten a taste of what that next leadership role is like, that's going to create a huge problem. So I believe that the way this system should work is we keep promoting within. I 100% thank Rick Weaver for his service and what he's done for this department. I think he did a wonderful job, but it's time for him to retire and for us to hire within. We have multiple officers that come to right to my mind when I think about this, and I think it is not in our best interest to either 1, have a part-time police chief, or 2, ignore all the hard work that our other officers have put in over these past years that they've been in the department. So I think that's something
Clarify that, Mr. President. So the savings under the mayor's proposal is a $31,000 savings. So it's $31,000, a difference of $25,000.
Of the 8 officer department versus the 9.
And when we had the 8 officer department, we did have to offset that with quite a bit of part-time. So I'm not sure how much that $31,000 savings applies.
Well, that's about the numbers of seeing what our new. So say we did decide to hire within, that number's coming from not like that hasn't been negotiated on what necessarily the raise would be from hiring internally.
These numbers are directly based on, right from the borough secretary, based on salaries, based on contractual obligations, based on every medical benefit, every benefit that's included. That's what these numbers are based on, are actual numbers. So they came from the borough secretary. So they're actual numbers.
but after crunching my own numbers, it kind of shows that we don't have a solid number of exactly what our next chief of police would have to get paid. Because quite honestly, he doesn't have to make as much, or he can make more than what our previous chief had made. So that's also something that should be under discussion. So historically speaking, we could look what our chiefs have made and kind of look at those numbers, but that doesn't necessarily make it true for what we have in the future. I mean, we could have a much smaller salary for our next chief through no fault of anybody, but just an ultimate savings.
So you would rather 8 than 9?
In this instance, I think 8 fits our department very well. We can, while 9, 10, 11 officers would be great, we gotta worry about the budget. Obviously, we're in a deficit this year, so that's obviously one of the most important things. But our department runs incredibly well with just 8 officers and using minimal part-time.
I'm just surprised because everything I've heard has been we need more officers.
Oh, absolutely.
You would rather 8 than 9.
I think anybody could use more officers. I think you'll hear that no matter where you go. More officers is a good thing all around, especially in the day and age we're in now. But our department has been operating smoothly with 8 officers for this past month. And I think any officer could tell you that they don't feel under stress. Our overtime isn't up, our part-time isn't through the roof. So it's operating quite smoothly right now.
There have been numerous requests from the gallery over the last 2 years that I can think of for more officers, not fewer.
Right, and
I've never heard that.
I can agree with that, but I think I
But
could.
never at the expense of a full-time chief.
So what I just asked, what's the difference between, what is that 11-hour difference, what is that? I mean,
It's not necessarily, I'd say those 11 hours are the biggest deal. It's kind of the, it's kind of like sending a slight message to our community saying, we don't need a full-time, we can go to a part-time. So it's not necessarily those 11 hours, the day and night. It's more or less the message they're kind of saying to our community, saying that we're in the good place that we need to be. So our leadership doesn't need to be there full-time. We just need them there to get some administrative stuff done, and everything else is fine and dandy.
I mean, I have a hard time overlooking a $56,000 savings. That's what I have a hard time overlooking. Compared to some of the other things that we've done and gone through, we can that quickly adds up to a $1 mil tax in savings. And we're short 90, basically in the general funds. So we've come up with a $1 mil savings by this and some other things if this were enacted.
So I guess my response to that would be, if our previous chief, let's say, was making $75,000 a year, and he retires, that $75,000 goes away. That $75,000 that was budgeted, that's no longer in our budget. So say we decide to give our next chief of police a $2,000 a year salary raise, then that means it's a $73,000 that we're cutting out of the budget. So I'm not sure where that $53,000 is coming from if we just cut 75 out and only took 2 from that. I'm not exactly sure where that $53,000 in savings is really going to be coming from.
Based on salary alone, that has nothing to do, there's no other benefits involved with it. So based on salary alone, you make up half of that, and the other half is benefits.
But we wouldn't be adding any benefits. Our officers that we have now are already receiving
We
the
wouldn't be
benefits.
taking any benefits away either to make the savings.
I guess I'm not quite comprehending because I'm saying we have our 9 officers now. Rick retired. Now we have 8. I don't really
So
understand.
that
how
you would have 8. So your savings isn't 56,000 of 8. Your savings is 31,000.
Explain that.
So if you bring up everybody, okay, and you have 8 total officers, okay, 8 total officers. That's a full-time chief, 2 corporals, and 6 patrolmen. So you take it down to 8, okay. So the full-time chief with 8 officers is $866,377.96. Okay. Now, if I take a part-time chief and 9 officers, okay, it's $897. Therefore, the savings is $31,000. If I take those same numbers, 9, including a full-time police chief at $953,797, and take a part-time chief and 9 officers, that's $897,751, which is a difference of $56,046.
Okay, but I have a
But
question
either way,
there.
you're saving money.
So,
Correct. If you're saving money, or you're saving money at 31,000 at 8 officers, or saving 56,000 and having 9 officers.
okay, so right now there's 8 officers, you're saying, correct?
Right now, there's 9 officers.
9.
There's 9 on the staff.
9 full-time officers?
Everybody, they're full-time total, yes.
And you're including the chief in that?
Yes,
Okay.
full-time and part-time numbers.
So, we don't have a chief.
Don't have
So
a
how are you including a chief's salary in that if we don't have a current chief right now?
Exactly.
In 3 months without a chief, I'm looking to project what the number's going to be with it.
Okay, but the mayor is clearly saying that we can promote within and not necessarily give them the same salary that Rick had. So if suppose we promote within, the current officer's making, say, $65,000 a year. Say Rick made $70,000, I don't know. You promote that person within, you give them $63,000 a year instead of the $60 that they're currently making. Now you're saving $7,000 because the chief that was making $70 is not there anymore.
So
That makes
$7,000
sense.
Your number's $38,000.
And are you taking Rick's benefits off of that number as
Yes.
well?
Yes.
So do you actually think that it is fair to our police officers that worked for 20-some years? You think it's fair to them? Because I don't.
So we have a situation where you take the officers, they're in the same situation. Guess what? They're gonna be dropped and done within 2 years anyway. So we're in the same place.
This
Not
town,
everybody.
this
Not
town
everybody.
needs a full-time police officer, a chief, full-time, not a part-time. And if you make that decision today, that we're gonna have a part-time, there's something wrong with every one of yous on this council. And believe me, none of yous will ever get my vote, ever.
What kind of incentive is the man that's supposed to step into this position? What if he gets disgusted with you and he leaves? Nobody's gonna get promoted anymore?
So in this scenario, what it leaves us to do is this contract position where it can go from time to time. And if we run into that scenario, we only have a year to deal with it instead of a lifetime or until they retire.
With all the dedication.
What happens, just a question,
Some
so
of
it
the
doesn't
ones-
say
some
where
of
there
the
has
ones
to be
within and that's
promotion
what
from
I'm
within.
Somebody
We can
knows
still go outside
something.
for a chief, correct?
You could, but hey, we're a small town, we're together in this town supposedly.
I understand.
Let's how about, take care of our people?
Yeah,
Okay.
our people.
Hold on, let's understand that Tamaqua is the second largest municipality in Schuylkill County. With that said, we had one of the largest crime rates in Schuylkill County. Over the past 3 years under Weaver, for the last 3 years, things have gotten progressively better. He worked full time. I remember a quote he said to me himself, "This is a full-time job." So now we're talking about going to a part-time chief. Other communities have stepped up and said, what a great job Tamaqua doing. They like what our police department's been doing, what our borough council's been doing with hiring extra officers. So we're going to, what? Sacrifice having a full-time chief, put less officers on the street so that you guys can save money on your special little projects? I don't think so. We are the people of this town. We do not want a part-time chief. We want proper coverage in this town. We deserve that. Everybody in this community has fought for the last 2 years to battle what we've been dealing with drugs and crime. To take that away from us, it's not fair.
So how do we take that away when we would, by going under that scenario, we're dropping an officer? We just got done saying we're gonna go down to 8 instead of having 9.
We didn't say we wanted 8 officers. We're saying
The mayor
we
said that
want,
the community
the mayor
could
said,
There's
operate.
8 already
There's
there.
9
8
there
already there. Chief Weaver did what? Administration.
Right.
Okay. So,
He did arrest.
He did arrest.
he made arrest, yes, of course. But with that said, we are the community. We all came out tonight because we already got wind that you already made a backdoor deal, that you've already hired it and signed contract.
I don't know where that came from.
Well, that's what everybody's heard.
That's the rumor mill.
Okay. Oh, I hope that's
rumor out
wrong.
there.
I really hope that's wrong.
I don't think
We
I
want
don't
a
think
full-time
anybody
officer.
We are that
That's
dumb to do something that stupid.
I would hope not.
Well, first of all, it's illegal. We couldn't even think of doing something like that. And anybody that believes that we made some kind of a deal like that
So
behind
then why
closed
is he
doors
coming here?
shouldn't even be talking
Well,
about
why
it.
is he coming here then saying that he already has the position?
Well, I'm sorry. Whoever's telling you that is wrong. 'Cause
It's
that's
coming
not-
right from his
It's
mouth.
coming from his mouth.
His
I'm
mouth.
telling you right
He's
Where's he
telling
at tonight?
everybody
Where's
you
he
guys
at
already
tonight?
gave him the
If he wants to be
position.
the next part-time chief, where is he tonight discussing and telling us and giving us the reassurance that we're going to have the same coverage and police chief purpose and responsibilities that he had when he was here.
I'm not arguing that point. I am just telling you, the statement you just made, that we cut a deal, and it's already signed and sealed, is totally wrong, and you...
Well, why wasn't the mayor involved in your conversations?
Because number one, the mayor's position is not a hiring or firing of
But he
officers.
is in charge of the police department and
Once
the overall
they
patient.
are police. Once they are
But he
police.
still should be involved in the conversation.
Why?
What do you mean why?
I
He's the
wasn't
mayor of our police department.
He's a representative of the
Once
public.
we come up, nobody's going to sign anything without everybody knowing about it. All right? And then, just like he's doing tonight, he's airing his opinion, and he has all the right to do so.
But where was the discussion with him since he's been elected?
Because there has nothing
Where
been
was
decided.
It doesn't matter. He's the mayor of the
It
people of
matters
this
to
community.
us. It
Okay, but he's in
doesn't
charge of the
matter
police
to you.
department. But he is in charge of the police department.
Once they are police.
There have been discussions, there have been executive sessions here that we've had in Mayor Grace's tenure that he's been part of that have dealt with the position in general.
When I
In executive
I might
session.
add.
And as I stated at the beginning of the meeting, the Public Safety Committee also met on
So
several.
why wasn't he invited? He's the mayor. Mayor Morrison was invited to these meetings.
Invited to committee meetings.
No, he was not.
But as far as executive sessions go, I mean, the truth is the truth. I mean, you gotta call it as you see it. And I came here early last week just to bring over some paperwork and get ready for the meeting, only to find that there had already been an executive session in session, and I had not heard one word about it. So I think the most important thing that we, as a municipal government, should take away from this is that we have the people who elected us, who went out and voted for each one of us that is an elected position, and they selected our names on who we are. So if we're going to look at them and say we're going to do the opposite of what you are asking us to do, I mean, I just can't find the sense in that. This is a choice that not only does our public not want, but I quite firmly believe that this is not a choice that our police department as a whole wants. So I think that's something we need to take into some serious consideration, that it might be in your best interest, but as far as the general public, this isn't what we're looking for. This is just a step in the wrong direction. And I mean, if that doesn't speak volumes that we're making decisions that is totally against the public, I'm not saying that everything they say we need to do, because sometimes the unpopular thing to do is the right thing to do. But I think in this instance, the popular thing to do is 100% the right thing to do.
One thing too, if I'd like to correct Mr. Conley, I apologize, but as a member of the FOP and with the police bargaining unit here, the FOP was never contacted about this. We never actually mentioned, and we would definitely not support a part-time position over a full-time position.
I do have a big question.
Actually, if I may, ma'am, I'd like Councilman Crowley an opportunity to address that, please.
So Representative Egan, who represents the FOP, was involved in rendering a decision on this.
Like I said, he would have had to contact our lodge, our local area here. This was never something that was associated, it was never talked about with our local
Attorney
lodge.
Egan, they talked to the Auditor General's office.
I mean, did you guys pay Attorney Egan? Because normally unless you pay him, he's not gonna do work for you
No,
guys.
he doesn't work for us, he works for you.
I know. and
We
would not-
have a solicitor, not Mike, but another solicitor that helps us with matters of employment,
Okay.
who contacted Solicitor Egan.
Like I said, Attorney Egan never reached up to our lodge, he never advised us something was
I
going
can't.
on here, and.
I don't think anybody here can speak to what he did with the information once he received it, but he was contacted.
I did contact him also to see if he was contacted, but I did not get a response back from him yet, so.
Mhm.
Mr.
if-
Did you work out a deal with a specific person that has yet to be signed?
There is no deal work. I mean, I've
So a
talked about.
person,
talked
a
about-
specific employee has not been identified to take this position that Mr. Connolly talks about.
If you listen to what Mr. Conley read, yes.
That someone has been identified.
Yes.
Yes. Rick
And
Weaver.
so perhaps you have not signed an agreement, because as you stated, that would violate
That's right.
lots of laws.
That's right.
But you need to be made aware that that person has been walking around talking about his new job.
Well,
Yep.
Eric, he's wrong.
And you want somebody like that as your part-time chief?
And that very well.
Come on.
I have one thing. I like to know what yous are gonna do with these guys that worked 20-some years. I just don't think it is right to Hacker, Woods, Hobbs. I just don't think it is right what yous are doing. They earned that spot.
no incentive.
It should be their turn to get that spot.
Not the
Whoever.
good old boys.
They put their lives on the line every day.
Every
time
day.
they get a call, they don't know if they got a gun. They don't know how that person is. You know, and what you're doing to them is saying, well, you know what? Just keep working your
It's
little
like a
job
slap.
and put your life on the line.
It's a slap in the face. Come on.
What do you have to look forward to? How are you going to do a good job when you have nothing to look forward to? Would you like to be stuck there? Did any of you talk? I know what Officer Hobbs just said. Did any of you personally talk to any of the police? They're the ones out there every day.
Yes.
Yes. You did.
Answer that question. Yes.
The good old boy group,
Okay,
right?
and
That is not what she asked.
no, I asked
She
it.
asked
Any of
if
you
anyone
asked?
had talked to officers.
Have you advertised a position?
No,
And why, Ronnie?
because we didn't feel we were ready to act.
If I can,
Okay.
if I can.
But you're ready to hire
the motion on the
somebody.
floor right now is to create a new position.
Right.
And-
Mr. Connolly, if I may ask another question. I know you went through all the numbers, but it's not making sense to me because,
Me either.
and I'm gonna work in round numbers. I have no idea if these are correct. So, say we have the chief that retired made $100,000 a year. Again, it's not the numbers. He retires, so that $100,000 in salary and benefits disappears. An officer from within is promoted, and say that officer made $50,000 a year, and because of the current financial climate in our borough, agrees to step up to chief for $55,000 a year. You have the $100 savings from the chief, plus you have the $45,000 less that the new chief is going to take. So that's $145,000. You have a salary plus a difference, and neither your numbers, 56 or 31,000, they don't reflect the taking out of the chief, former chief.
So the numbers I did with the part-time scenario, that takes out the benefits, and that takes out half of it, or 3/4 of the salary. You still have to pay a part-time something, obviously. So if you base those numbers and take those out, that's where it comes up with the savings. If you went to a full-time chief and kept the numbers, now, again, I did include and keep the numbers as the current chief, just to use as a starting point. So we'll point out, yeah, there could be more savings there. There could be. But that still brings the savings number is below with a part-time versus a full-time.
But how is that if you're not replacing another officer?
Are you paying him a pension as part-time?
Yep, sure, it's out there.
Why? Why? He's only part-time.
So I missed that question.
Oh, yes. He's gonna get
I have
benefits
a, I
being
have a few
part-time.
questions, and maybe this is the place to do it. I would like to, first off, let me just state, what I think you're doing to our police officers is totally wrong. You're giving them no incentive. You're giving them absolutely nothing to work for. The officers that we have now, I think we can all stand here and say, are the greatest people I think we've ever had. Going from there, I just want to say, do you think, after this decision is made, that we're going to do a part-time chief, how many of those officers are we going to lose?
Yeah. No incentive.
Do you think they're going to stay
That's
here?
insane bullshit.
There's no
We
incentive.
have officers that are vested at this given point in time. We have a couple of officers that are just short of that time. They will be looking for new jobs. I don't say that out of my own personal, that's what I know. They are looking for new jobs. If this proceeds on, they're looking for new jobs. Because what's to stop council from not just going and hiring a part-time chief,
Part-time
but next time officers?
Absolutely.
And let me ask you this, if you want to save money, hey, let's take everybody out front and put them at 28 hours a week. How do we take Kevin's job, for example, trumps the chief of police? Where are we gonna stop? What's our next move? Are we gonna continue to go 28 hours a week? I think, if you wanted to save money, you could do that. Let's do our borough workforce, 28 hours a week. We can do away with healthcare. Look at the money you're gonna save. But then look what you're losing. You're losing people. And this is exactly what we're gonna do with our police department. We're gonna lose fine people, great people, people that do their job, people that respect the community. The other thing is, our police chief passed. And I know there's a lot of lovers out there for him. He has nothing to do with community events or people. He does not come out and participate. I've never seen him drive a vehicle down Main Street, or Broad Street rather, for a parade. It's always delegated out. You're saying 28 hours to work is his requirement? Not bad when he could walk in the door and then delegate his work to other officers, which has been going on for years. So therefore, you're paying him to delegate to Officer Hobbs, Officer Hacker, or any one of the other gentlemen. So what you're paying for, I have no idea. I shouldn't say you, we paying for it. Please, I'm asking you, use common sense. Look at the overall picture. Money is not always the object. Okay, so if a truck breaks down, we can't replace the truck, so be it. We still have a way to pay for a police chief and a full-time department. Because if we start with the top, there is no end until you hit the bottom. Please reconsider this factor.
Okay, so we do have part-time police officers now.
I understand that, but we have multiple full-time officers, and that's where our department should be held.
Right.
In a full-time status, from the top to the bottom officer.
Okay, and I think it's important to clarify, as far as the position was concerned, what the full-time chief position was. It was a 40-hour-a-week salaried position, and Rick was available by phone most any other hour of the day.
And rightfully he should be.
Yeah, you're right.
He wants that position, he deserves it.
You're right, it comes with the territory, you're absolutely right. And that's a non-overtime situation, so whatever hours he's working in any given week, for whatever reason, at any time, there's 40 hours a week paid for that position. That was what the full-time chief position was.
And that's what it should continue to be.
What we're talking about here is the opportunity, and it's somewhat unique, to have a 29-hour-a-week position with the same individual having the same off-hour availability and responsibility.
But if Chief Weaver,
I'm sorry, that's not laughable.
It is laughable. It is. Think about it.
It is.
if Chief Weaver
If I
decides,
may, that if we're talking about having 128 hours, and that is the hours of a week minus 40 hours a week, we're talking about having somebody available off hours for anything that make him up 128 hours when he's not working those 40 hours a week that he's salaried for. We're now then talking about a situation, same individual, now having 139 hours of off-duty availability in a week and being paid for 29. I don't know why we make the automatic conclusion that an individual who gave us almost 5 years worth of service, and I haven't heard anybody say anything bad about him or the job that the department did during that tenure.
if I may interrupt.
Excuse me, committed to that structure for almost 5 years, but suddenly within a month he's only going to be punching a clock for 29 hours.
He's retired.
He's retired.
If he had any respect,
He's retired as a full-time officer. Yes.
Okay, so with that deal that he made, it was 5 years and out.
If he goes over 29
There's
hours
a couple of questions about it.
If he goes over 29 hours, say we have emergency after emergency.
He's
and
not
suddenly
coming in.
He's doing 40 hours a week.
He's-
Is he not then going to be a full-time officer?
He won't be
and
available.
then
No, he won't be
No.
available, then we go to one of the other
And will
officers.
he have arresting powers? Can he actually
Yes.
go out?
Yes. And it's a 29-hour-a-week salaried position. So as far as 40 hours a week salary before with off-hour responsibilities versus 29 hours a week with off-duty responsibilities, the only thing that changes is the 11 hours of paid time. Still has the same duties and responsibilities and capabilities. Done.
I will say again, we do commend and appreciate former Chief Weaver's duties that he did and the job that he did.
Mhm.
But he also came to Borough Council and asked for this deal that he got, which was the 5 years and out, the contract.
Exactly.
He applied for that.
You approved it.
It was approved a month before he became chief.
Okay.
Yes.
So with that, the contract stated 5 years and out.
Mhm.
Okay, so now we've done how many months of negotiating and back, trying to figure out what we were gonna do so that we could keep Weaver?
There was
So
Yeah.
what's happening with
Yeah.
that pension that he was getting and everything, and what is his new benefits? That's what wasn't discussed in the numbers.
Okay, so when he retired, he had the opportunity to collect his pension.
Mhm.
All right. As far as benefits are concerned, there aren't any.
He got a one-time draw for a lump sum per that contract,
Yes.
plus his pension.
Nice.
Yes.
He did.
Okay, so now what are we offering
Clarify.
him? What is this borough offering him for that 29 hours of service? Besides a job? What else are you offering him? Because he's already retired.
A pension. A pension.
An additional pension or more to his pension? What's the lump sum?
Which lump sum are we talking about?
I would not have worked here as a chief, made a deal, and then retired, only to be called back into service under a part-time without something in my pocket. I'm sorry.
Okay,
No
so-
human being's going to do that.
The chief entered the drop program.
Yes.
The same as two other officers in our force have done so. Okay, there was a lump sum payment that was given to him as a result of the money that he put into the drop program over those 5 years.
Correct.
So there's no deal there, that's something that's in the contract.
That money he put in.
Correct.
And it's money that he put in.
But what's the deal on the table for him as part-time?
A salary-
Besides 29,
A
besides
salary
29?
a salary that equates to an annualized $45,000 a year.
Okay, and what does that do going forward for pension?
Nothing.
It has to do something.
No, it doesn't. Their part-time officers don't get a pension.
Oh, no, I think what he's saying is like, he retired, so like, let's take it step by step. He put in his years of service, he entered in the job program, he got his lump sum payout for what he was paying into the job program.
Yes.
Now,
And that is going to happen regardless of anything
Right.
we're
of course,
discussing right now.
now what happened is we're forgetting the second step of part-time, now we're saying, after he got his lump sum payout, now he's going to receive his pension for that duty.
Yeah.
He's permitted,
Yes.
he's
And then
permitted,
he will also be brought back and employed by the borough being paid part-time. So I think he's not saying you're gonna give him a pension for part-time.
That is his pension.
Right, no,
That's his good old boy pension.
He's getting his
No.
pension and then he's gonna get a paycheck.
Right, the
Yes.
paycheck is his good old boy pension at 40-some thousand a year.
no, I'm sorry, but that's really a mischaracterization of what's being proposed.
So why him?
Why not someone else?
We could
Well, right,
have-
so why do you advertise?
Is there
Because
any,
we didn't even, because we're going through this right now
This is the first
to
one we
create the
discussed.
position. You gotta create the position.
But
before
that's
you
not
start
how
doing
it's
it.
already
This is the first time that we're discussing this to get approval. We didn't put any name. If everybody's names are out there and everybody's saying, yes, it's him, it's him, it's him, we don't have anything to
So
sign.
then
We
why
have
when the
to sign.
Times News, why when the Times News questioned Dave Mace didn't say it isn't Rick Weaver?
I don't know what Dave Mace said according to Times News. He said
But
it's
Ron
on
already
committee.
said it earlier, it's Weaver.
Who said it's Weaver?
Ron said it earlier.
Did not say it was.
You said that is exactly what you're looking at.
His name has been mentioned,
Right.
amongst others.
Okay.
Amongst other names.
I mean, one thing that Mr. Rogers said is very crucial that everybody's missing. What happens is, say the officers that have been here that 20-some years not getting that chance, they start putting applications in elsewhere.
I'm going to leave.
Would anyone blame them, first of all? Because if it was me, I'd be doing the same thing.
No incentive,
The thing is, what happens
no respect.
is that you have an officer in this town for that many years. They know the town. They know the ins and outs. They know the people of this town. They know who have warrants. They know who to look out for. They know their faces. They know their names. They know where they live.
They're vested.
So I have a question. Is $20-some thousand worth of life? Ask that question. Because when you get a rookie in here, and we've seen it plenty of times, me, Michelle, John, they don't know where even to go. They don't know a street. They don't know their face. We say, if someone says, hey, there's a warrant for this person, they're actively selling. They're down at Burger King.
They're not vested in our community.
They don't know even who to look at. You're going to lose all that public safety. I grew up in Pottsville. When I grew up in Pottsville, I was in Tamaqua 2 times until I was age 20. Because everybody said that's a drug town. Stay out of there. That's the biggest drug town going. Now I see people when I go back to Pottsville or St. Clair, Frackville, everywhere. And they say, wow, your town has done amazing things. People are looking at our town to do the same things, to see what we're doing because it's working. You say 11 hours is nothing. 11 hours is nothing.
It is to us.
It is. It is to us. There could be a stabbing in 11 hours. There could be 3 stabbings. There could be 20 ODs. There could be a number of things. Robberies. All the robberies that are going on right now. There is a lot going on in this town. And 11 hours does make a huge difference. And I will tell you this. That $20-some thousand, it's not worth bearing our kids.
I'd like to point something out real quick. The first number that I look at, when I look at this sheet, the first number that comes to mind is we're looking at a full-time chief rate of an annual salary of $76,000. Now, a corporal's rate is $60,236. I can say with some pretty good certainty that these numbers are not true because that may have what was being made last year in 2017. But as far as these number goes, we're not looking for a $16,000 jump from corporal to chief.
Exactly.
So you can make numbers say whatever you want. I can fudge these numbers however I wanted to. But at the end of the day, it's what these officers are truly getting paid. So these are hypothetical numbers.
These are not hypothetical numbers. These are numbers that came directly from the secretary who ran the payroll, who ran the numbers, who ran the benefits.
From last year.
From Georgia. Okay, so they're accurate. This year from last year.
I'm correct. That's from last year?
No.
These are 2017.
No, she did it a couple days ago.
But my point is that if hypothetically, if we promote it from inside, our corporal is making $60,000. Are you guys telling me that, say, if we did decide to hire a corporal to chief, we're going to give him a $16,000 raise? Is that because that's what this number? That's what these numbers say. That's what these numbers are saying.
I would submit to you that whoever that chief would be negotiating the number with Borough Council.
And that's exactly what I said before, and you told me no. I said that it would have to be negotiated. We have no way to know.
I don't recall telling you no on that, but I will say that the number that's based here is based on the number from the previous, the person who was the previous occupant.
Right, so we just cut out $76,000, like I said before. The $76,000 we're taking out of the equation. We're going to take $2,000 off of that. So we're going to take it from $60,000 to $62,000. And now we have $74,523.20 left. That just got cut out. I don't know how much more complicated we could try to make it, but that is simple math. You take that money out, that's what you have left. We can add it to the $100,000 deficit in our budget this year. I don't understand how we're getting lost in the numbers when the proof is right there.
If you're, I guess I'm not following your logic. You're saying that you want to.
Correct.
Yes.
That is assuming
one officer
we're
down.
operating with 8 officers, which means we have at least 2 officers around the clock. We're not using a ton of overtime. We're not using a ton of part-time. That's just plain and simple.
But the mayor's saying, right, if we go to 8 officers, and without doing anything with a reduction in a chief's salary, we're at $31,000. Anything you do in reduction in chief's salary, that adds to that savings, to that number. It does. No denying.
Bottom line is, the people in this community don't want a part-time chief.
No, that's the
We
bottom
don't
line.
deserve that.
No, we want full-time.
We don't want a part-time chief.
As a former council member, I've sat there in the same place that you guys are sitting now. These decisions are not easy. But what is easy is the fact that Tamaqua deserves a full-time chief. The drug epidemic in this community is horrific. But we also have a great police department that does amazing things. We have a drug task force. We have great full-time police officers. Why substitute just to save $20,000 extra with a part-time chief? It's sending the wrong message to drug users in this community. It's sending the wrong message to the organizations in this community who are spending their countless non-paid hours and trying to do what's right for this community. And I think a full-time chief by their side is what is the right direction, not a part-time chief. We've sat here and we've given them every piece of equipment that we possibly can give them, brand new vehicles, etc. And now we're going to say, you know what, after doing all of that stuff and doing what we need to do for our police department to say that we deserve a part-time chief and not allow somebody within or even from outside to come in here to be a full-time chief, it just is absolutely wrong. I believe that we need a full-time chief. And I believe that you need to allow this mayor, this young man who is very, very smart, and just because he's 19 years old means absolutely nothing. Because this kid is what we wanted. Yeah, he might have... Anyways, he's a good kid. Please hire a full-time chief. It's what we need in this community.
Just so I know that I'm getting it right. So the community is okay for a full-time chief and 7 officers to keep the force at 8. That's what we're saying.
We also need part-time guys.
I'm asking that.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
You still have
And the community's okay
officers.
with the savings not at the full amount. So we'd be giving them a $30,000 savings. We're okay with that savings.
Yes. But
And-
that's what I don't understand. If you're removing the chief's salary, how can you say it's $31,000 that's the savings? Because his salary was
It's with benefits and everything else included.
That's what everybody's saying. That math doesn't seem right. That math isn't right.
You're taking out that one whole salary. So
We're
by
taking
not
out a salary,
replacing
but still keeping tabs for a $45,000, whatever it becomes.
If you take out the chief's salary completely, go just off of the 8 full-time officers, promote one of those officers within our department, give them $2,000 to $5,000 more a year.
Okay?
That money that the chief was, our former chief was being paid, that just got put back into the kitty, just got reduced by $2,000 to $5,000. That is a savings in our pocket, and it gives us a full-time chief.
Not at $70,000, you're at the $31,000.
How do you get that? What was our chief making with the benefits?
The chief making with the benefits $128,000.
Okay, so take that $128,000 off the table. What are we paying 8 officers full-time with benefits?
Minus the 40 he's supposed to
So
get.
minus the chief, so if you take
Take the part-time chief off. Give me just 8 full-time officers.
$923,827. So you want me to take the 9?
Take the 8 full-time off. Yeah,
full-time,
take 9. Because
Okay.
you're going to promote one.
Okay.
No.
No, I'm sorry. No, never mind. Sorry. 8 full-time officers.
With
Sorry.
a full-time chief.
math class.
Yes.
Yes, with a full-time chief.
Oh, no,
But that full-time chief
is in there.
should be, no.
There's 8 officers with a full-time chief is $867,000.
We want to go,
Right.
we want to go down
8 officers
1
plus.
Is
on the force.
$866,000.
Okay, so
Okay.
take 866,000 and subtract the 128, because the chief, that chief is gone. That's your number.
But you still have to put something in there for benefits for the next chief.
Their benefits
They're
are
already
already
getting
there. They're a
already
full-time
getting
chief
them.
you're
They're full-time.
promoting.
Come on
Where is
now.
there more benefits?
Promote them.
You're
I'm
promoting
an
them.
insurance agent.
You're giving them incentives. Come on.
Right.
Math class 101.
Oh my
So
God.
there it is.
Hey,
Oh, math 101.
Yeah, you're getting
Come on,
the full-time officer is getting the same benefits as if you're promoting him chief. You're not adding benefits.
correct.
Thank
What
you.
we're doing is taking $2,000 to $5,000 or whatever is negotiated from what the previous chief, which has
And
been
you're giving that to him.
eliminated,
And you're giving that to
and you're giving
him.
that to the one that we're promoting within.
So that savings is a big difference.
So you said there was a
Promoting
difference of
inter-
$16,000 or $16,000? If we gave that officer we promoted that $16,000, we'd still be saving the rest of the benefits and salary we were paying for.
Absolutely.
That's a benefit to the community.
And then we have 8 full-time officers versus 9.
But
Yes.
we've been functioning on 8.
We've been working on 8.
Councilman Mace,
Only for the last month.
No.
Yeah,
Well, we
No.
can do
Okay.
it.
When Spores was
First,
hurt,
just-
he was
just-
out.
Yeah, we had
no
officers
We had
that hurt.
officers hurt, and
No,
we were
I-
working on
wait.
8.
No,
the
no
last year.
overtime.
Wait, to clear up the math, the former police chief was making $75,000 plus in salary,
Slightly more than that.
around there,
Yes.
plus his benefits.
Yes.
He's still going to continue to get benefits, that he's retired, because that's in the contract. He gets in 2 years, 3 years, health benefits,
3 years.
3 years? 2 or 3 years, he's still going to get benefits. Fine, that's
Yes,
okay.
that was negotiated as part of,
Right.
as
That's
part of, not
okay.
as part of his deal, but as part of the.
That's
police.
part of the police contract.
Yes.
But his salary at $75,000.
73.
79.4.
Okay.
Okay. If you take that and eliminate it, okay, that's a 74.9
$79.4
savings. Now, if you take a part of that and give it as a salary increase
For promoting
to
within.
from somebody that you're promoting from within, so even if you give them $10,000, you're still saving $64,000.
They have to
64.9.
do that at the expense of one full-time officer.
Yeah, however, okay, let's go to the full-time officer, your 9 full-time officer department. Wait a minute, Nate. 2 years ago, when all these people came to council and asked for the police department to be brought back up to its level, okay, at that time, there was an officer who had been fired. So this council hired 2 officers, which brought the department up to its full complement. You had to take back the fired officer, which gave you 1 officer more than you wanted, so I'm sorry, but your 9 full-time officers was already 1 more than you actually needed.
We were actually running on 10.
We're not complaining though.
So you're not losing an officer.
So you're not losing an officer.
Anybody complain about having too many officers?
No, we're
No.
not.
It's not a complaint about too many officers, it's a complaint that
Okay.
the position needs to be full-time.
We want a full
When we came in here before, asking for more officers, we all wanted more full-time officers. We were tired of all the part-times, people coming in from outside our community, not being vested in our community. We actually were out, we got called about some needles being someplace. We called for backup because there was a weapon found. When your part-time officer that you hired came in, he parked 30 yards away, got out of his car, and was hugging his gun and wouldn't even come anywhere close. We want vested officers full-time here, and we want a full-time vested chief in this community.
Okay, so the part-time officers that you're talking about in that situation are typically people who are younger.
Right.
Correct.
Yes. And at the beginning of their careers.
And no longer here.
And no longer here because
No
they weren't
longer
That
vested.
is kind of the nature of a part-time police officer.
Right.
Okay,
Because anybody who.
So why hire a part-time
operates
chief?
in that position.
I can go
was
back
to
to-
find a full-time position.
okay, I can go back to Officer Hobbs. His very first call in our community was in my neighborhood
Okay.
for a wellness check. Yes, he was green, but he had officers backing him up. Full-time officers there to support him and educate him. You had a part-time officer show up and nobody else came. It was 20 minutes later until another officer came. And only because he stood by his radio going, "Can you send me somebody else?"
Right, so there's usually.
That's why we
two
ask for the
officers on duty
full-time
at any given
officers.
time.
We want full-time officers, full-time chiefs.
You're asking us to
primarily.
try to maximize the number of full-time officers that we have.
But we're running with Herrick, or doesn't that put us?
That
We
makes
had
it
we had
not.
9 until February 28th,
Okay.
and we had 9 for
2 years.
almost 2.
At the time we came to you and asked for more full-time, to bring it up, we were running primarily on part-time. I think we had 14 part-time at the time, something like
Well,
that.
there's a list of part-timers that they don't necessarily all work at any given
I-
time.
Correct, but still, we had very few full-time.
There were fewer full-timers at that time, yes, there was
Six.
There was a request made,
And we
and
thank,
not just by you, but by other members of
Right.
the community as well.
and we thank the borough council for giving us what we asked for. It has worked out for us.
Right.
Law enforcement in this town has stepped up their game. We have less drug dealers, less drug deals, less theft than what we had 2 years ago,
And
when we started all of this.
under the leadership of the previous chief and
Correct.
all of the people who were
We're not debating his leadership.
No, we're not.
That is not being
What we're
debated here
saying
whatsoever.
is-
Would it surprise anybody to think that we would want to try to continue that arrangement?
We
with-
retired.
As
retired, he
full-time we want. We don't want part-time.
Okay, so again, I would just remind you is the nature of the position, because there's just as many, well, I shouldn't say just as many, but there are many off-duty hours as part of that position as there is when you're on.
But we
And
have very good officers that
the same
could
thing.
be a chief as well. That's what we're saying.
Were any of them
We
asked
didn't
if
have
they
a
wanted to
chance.
take the chief position?
Yeah, please, go ahead.
Okay. My thinking about this is, Dwayne Hacker is a wonderful man. And he would make a great chief.
Yes, he
Our detective, Henry Woods, is another good man.
Yes, he is. You got Hobbs.
And you got Hobbs in the corner.
And I know
Hobbs
a
in the
lot of
corner.
people in this community worked at the Atlas and worked at Morgan's. They didn't get much money when they got a pension from these places.
Exactly.
And their social security is very low.
Yes.
So I know that their monthly income is not a lot for you to live on. But we're taking a chief who had a good life, who made a good salary, and has a good pension, and we're rewarding him with a job. He's going to get a check from us, and he's going to pull a pension too. So I could see that could rub people the wrong way. Why should he be getting so much when a lot of people in the community aren't? But my thoughts about this police department, and I've been on council for 12 years, that Rick, he's a very good chief. He's a disciplinarian, and he has ideas, and he pushes his police officers. And my thought was, why would you not want to keep this good
And he
law
shouldn't have
enforcement?
retired.
He shouldn't have retired.
Why
He should have
retire?
made
He chose to retire.
Absolutely.
I also-
It was a financial benefit for him.
So on his benefit, we should suffer.
Wait a minute.
No, wait, let him talk.
Wait.
Well, give Chuck a second.
Give him a second.
Go ahead, Tom. I'm trying to quiet them down.
Okay. That's most of He's either gonna work for us, or he's gonna work in another department.
Let him
Let him
go.
go. Bye. Let
Okay,
him
no,
go.
Mike.
And I think what council has to do is the will of the people.
Okay, and I understand that. We are the will of the people, but you just heard from one officer, and there are many other officers in this department. If you do this, they're gone.
All right.
When they're gone, we lose our vested interest in
No
this
one's
community.
saying Rick did a bad job.
He did a good job.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
We made this decision.
You did.
Tom basically just
Yes,
did.
you did. In the beginning of this conversation, this decision was made.
No, it was not.
Your next motion would have been to hire Rick Weaver as the part-time chief.
Did we make that
Yes,
motion?
thank you, Tom.
Because we haven't gotten that far yet.
Yes, it is.
And
I have one
had the
question
folks
for-
not turned out tonight, that's
Hold
all
on,
we would have
hold on,
to
let
do.
Ron go.
Okay.
Please.
I have one question just for the mayor, and believe me, it's just a question.
Okay.
You firmly believe that there's an officer, no matter who it would be, within our ranks, that are willing to take that chief's position, and I'm just gonna throw this number, for roughly $10,000 less than the previous chief.
All my heart, I believe that. Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes.
I believe that. I believe that too.
Go ahead, Terry.
I'm Terry Livingston, President, Council Member, Mayor. I just want to say that Rick Weaver is a friend of mine. He's done a tremendous job. He chose to retire. Now, if he wants to work part-time for somebody, whether it be West Penn, us as a part-time police officer, whatever, that's fine, but he chose to retire. I want to speak, Officer Hacker, Officer Hobbs, did the DARE program at our school for many years, came off a night shift, or gave their days off for free. They supported that program for many years without any pay retribution. I don't know where, they've been very, very supportive of anything in the community that I've been involved in. I'm sure that Tammy and her husband can say that.
Yes, absolutely.
Rick sometimes has been, but not always, and I'm not, that's everybody's personal being what they choose to do. But I do believe that there are qualified candidates within the officers that are here. If you choose to go with this plan, I think it should be advertised, and maybe even it should be put on a ballot, whether the people in the community want a part-time police officer, chief. I don't know, I just feel that if you give many years of service to your job, whether it be a police officer, whatever any of you do, you would be looking for that is boy, that is girl. Let's give them our support and move them up.
Absolutely.
It's called respect, and anybody that worked at a job would want that.
Yes.
And I think that it's sad that we're sitting here with two officers standing here, and we're saying that we're thinking, and I know you're saying it, Rick Weaver, I got it, but I'm hearing also his name going around here.
Yep.
So, I'm just saying, I don't think that's fair to those gentlemen that are putting their lives on the line for us every day also. So, that's how it
So,
feels.
Mr. Fred, let's just bring this just to a conclusion.
If I may, first, before you close the floor. How many people on council have taken the opportunity to read the bylaws of the drop program? Our finance committee?
If I may, sir, where are you going with the?
Oh, I'm gonna give it to you point blank.
No, please.
I want you to take a calculator out, okay?
Section 207.
I have it.
Okay.
I want you to take a calculator out. I want you to take Mr. Weaver's, whoever, well, Weaver, he's the one that we're pushing for part-time. I want you to take whatever you're offering him per week for his 29 hours. I want to calculate that up, how many days he'll, or hours, he will work for our borough up to $5,000. Because this is his cap. $5,000 is all he is allowed to make for the year. So now what happened to our part-time chief? He's not even per diem. Better check on this, Tom. They're looking at me like I have a third eye.
Section 207. Section 207 of the drop program.
There it is. We have a copy if you want to make a copy.
So what you're saying
Throw it
is we
around.
can only pay the chief $5,000?
Up to $5,000, he can only work up
Or he
to
loses his
making
pension.
$5,000 a year.
So what you're reading from is the summary of the amendments to the municipal pension law. Most of the section 207C2 that were pointed out was actually deleted by the same amendments that you're pointing out, 2010. So they were deleted in 2010. If you look further down, the word closed out as service, and the deletion, which is section 207C2, now reads, for the purposes of this section, if a pension is reemployed, following commencement of retirement allowed, he shall not be entitled to receive his retirement allowance or anything. There is no longer any reference to any monetary cap on earnings. That's from the municipal pension law, section 207, as amended in 2010. That being said, okay, look, I get it. We need to bring this thing up so we can have this discussion. In my personal opinion, if the public's fine with making the savings that we can, may not be a home run, but if that's what you guys want and it's some type of savings, I'll rescind my motion, Mr. President. You know, when we sit back, these are tough decisions that we as elected officials
But they're a correct decision.
So, but my point is, Mr. President, is that we make these tough decisions, but I hope everybody realizes these types of decisions. And there's still gonna be matters that come up that we're still gonna have to go through. We're still gonna have to find ways to get money.
We know, we understand that.
And
We
that's
do.
what I'm looking for, that you guys know and understand that, because
We do.
we can't come every time saying, we need to cut this, we need to cut that, we need to make money. We're out of options, so we're trying to
We
think
do
outside the
understand
box
that.
for you folks.
We do understand that, and let me say this to the Borough Council. We do know that your jobs are extremely tough.
Absolutely.
There is nobody in this room that would say any of your decisions are easy.
No.
You've had to make tough ones, ones that we haven't liked. This is something with the nature of our society nowadays that we want. This is why we're asking for a full-time chief. We want that dedication in this town.
And we like it internal.
And I'd like to
Internal.
make one statement, just so nobody gets the wrong idea here. And I believe through my personal talking to different officers, I think they believe me, alright? There is absolutely zero disrespect for any officer on this force within this group. We understand what you're saying, okay? I talked to Officer Hacker this morning for probably 2 hours, okay? And I listened to him, and I explained to him, believe me, I came from the shoestring job, all right, and worked my way up to the point where I am today. And I understand that these gentlemen are all in that same situation. I just want you to understand, it was looking at the financial end, hoping to find the pot of gold, okay, for our people that are paying taxes within this town. Because I don't know if anybody realizes this, when we talk about raising taxes a mill, where do we think that's coming from? We all pay taxes in this town, and it's getting less and less people paying taxes in this town every year. But yet we want to raise taxes a mill. How can you raise taxes a mill when you don't have the mill in the public to get it? Okay? Believe me, this was no disrespect.
The same way we're putting in LED lights throughout the town.
To try to save
Additional camp, I understand. But what's the loan cost us? It's in time.
Well, yeah, and you gotta look at it.
And I understand that, but we have all the security cameras that we're putting up all over the place that in the past 2-3 years, nobody's been paying any attention to.
Well, I wouldn't say nobody's been paying attention.
Well,
As Chuck just said, there's a lot of places we can cut back, but
We
not
can.
in our police force.
And you took notice, we listened.
Yes, you did.
yes,
Yes, you did.
thank you.
All right, and it was not unheard. And Brian rescinded his motion, I rescinded mine.
Thank you.
I would just like it to be heard that on April 3rd, 2018, we had all these lovely people in the audience come to us as a governing body and tell us what they want. And I think that is the most important thing. So if I speak incorrectly, please someone correct me. They are looking for a full-time chief from the members of full-time officers we have now. They're not saying
Absolutely.
They're not naming anybody in
Absolutely.
particular, but that is what they
It's the
have come to
right
us.
thing to do.
Our officers have worked hard.
Yes.
That's right.
Not a
It's the right
part-time
thing to do.
officer either.
Yeah.
We want one of our full-time officers, and that, whether it be interviewed, advertised, I just want us to all in this room be under that. On this day, they came to us and said, "This is what we want." And quite honestly, I can't think of one good reason why we should give our community the ones that our officers are going out and serving, protecting, and the people who elect us to these positions. I just can't see a reason why we wouldn't want to please the people who appoint us.
And I feel we just did that.
I agree.
Absolutely.
But if we would not have come here tonight, as a whole, this would have went through.
Yeah, it would have went through.
It would have, because they would have had to make that decision for us, because we didn't stand up as a community.
Right.
Because we stood up as a community, they heard us.
Do what you did.
Right,
Nobody's
absolutely.
respecting you for doing that.
And how else would you know
But
if
you're
you
also
went
not
up?
being on the up and up, because it was one person walking around talking about this deal,
that it came to everyone's attention.
Uh,
Otherwise,
We
we
wouldn't
would
have
have
known.
only found out after the fact.
As quote unquote from the president, when I was on the phone with him last week, it was going to be brought to the public's attention Tuesday night at a vote. Other than that, nobody would have known.
And what I said was that there was gonna be a report from the committee brought to this meeting.
Right, for
and that
decision.
It would be debated at that time. and
Right,
possibly
brought to the
voted.
public's
Yeah.
attention.
Mhm.
Correct.
That's what I said.
Yes.
And everything after the
Yeah, go ahead.
When we hired the CIA agent, an ex-CIA agent 2 months ago.
He was hired as a part-time police
Okay, that's what I
officer.
wanna know, if he was part-time.
Yes.
And we gave out certificates to how many policemen, for robbing, shooting, knifings, drug bust. That was the night we gave all those certificates to
Yeah, I
our
can't
police.
answer specifically how many, but it was like 4 or
It was
5, maybe
amazing.
6.
So that's how our police force is, they're amazing.
Yeah, they are.
Yes. Those were citations that were given
Yes.
by Chief Weaver, yes.
So I think we should just stay in our house. Go from there.
Nate, I have a question. Did you say full-time, not part-time?
Yeah, he said
Full-time.
full-time. Yeah,
Right?
full-time.
So I hope we're gonna go with full-time.
No, we are,
Part-time.
they already passed it.
Yeah, they
They said,
rescinded.
well, they
Oh,
said,
okay.
they rescinded.
They can bring
Okay.
a part-timer up to a chief's position.
Oh.
I have just one question. If tonight this forum would have elected Ricky as a part-time chief, why can't this forum tonight elect Officer Hacker here as a full-time chief?
Exactly. Come on.
They do have to enter into negotiations. They've got to work out the fine
Yeah,
details.
there's negotiation.
You were going to hire Rick Weaver back tonight, without negotiation.
They already negotiated, that was 40-some thousand.
Yeah, okay, you did the negotiating already with him.
I
Right.
did not have any negotiation or read a negotiation with anyone.
You already knew the salary though.
Way to go, Weir.
I don't, I mean, you can believe that, you obviously don't believe that,
No,
I'm sorry.
perhaps you didn't.
But other
Nate
members of
wasn't
council
included
did.
in anything either. So how many folks negotiated here with, to make that deal?
His position would not be involved with the negotiation of salaries for any officer. Well, I mean, most of the full-time, all the full-time officers are covered under the contract. But as far as salary negotiations with any hires that council makes, the mayor is not part of those conversations.
I think their point isn't so much as that I'm involved in the contract negotiations as far as what they're making, but as far as who we're going to bring to chief. Because quite honestly, by definition, the mayor's job is to oversee the day-to-day operations of the police department. So I need to work in conjunction with the mayor or with the police chief to get things accomplished. So I mean, I can understand it if you guys feel that it's not a necessary action, but I mean, as far as the public speaks and as far as I speak, it's something that I would like to be included on. And quite frankly, I think
We agree.
It's the borough code.
no, I'm not saying
I'm just
contract. I'm saying as far as the executive sessions that I had no clue about.
As far as, okay, so at this point now, we still have an open chief position. And I believe the next step is going to be, and I'm just speaking for myself here, to advertise for a full-time chief.
Yeah.
I make a motion that, Stewart to, draft a, list of, requirements and we put together an advertisement for,
You already have a list of job requirements.
Hiring
Hire
within.
within. Hire within, so it's a
We're
lower
hiring and promoting
salary.
within.
Hire within.
Second by Mary, asking us to draft the job qualifications for a full-time chief and an advertisement for the same. Is that correct?
Yes.
Assessment.
No.
That's hiring outside. That's
No, that's gonna hire outside. You have to,
So there's a motion on the floor.
Yeah.
Talking about this like we have for the last one, okay?
We have to deal for who we want to see.
to save the money, they have to do it within.
We could save money.
Wait, so we didn't advertise for a part-time position, but we're gonna advertise for a full-time position.
You have to.
You have to, Justin.
You know that we
Yeah.
wouldn't have advertised.
I do know that, I'm sorry.
Yeah, legally,
I do know that.
You, yes, you should advertise.
All right.
So how do you, so just, are we into the questions?
Yeah, we are still into the question.
So just a question, so if I understand it, we would do this in order to start the application process. That would include, obviously, any applicants from internal, and then the possibility to get some from external. I hear what you're saying, but all I'm saying is, if this starts, if we need to make sure that we're doing this properly in the hiring process, even the hire within, if that's what I'm understanding.
I believe, I guess I can't speak for Councilman Evans, but about the spirit of this motion, but that's what I hear in it.
Well, what Mr. Councilman Kerr said is, hypothetically speaking, Ron could make a motion right now to appoint a full-time police chief. Richie could second it.
It's done.
You can't, no, you can't do that without negotiating a salary and benefits.
It would have to be voted on, but it wouldn't have to be advertised. Now, if we wanted to promote a sergeant or corporal, then it would have to be advertised. But as far as a chief, that just.
promotion of officers, and I'm not an expert on this because we haven't really done this during my tenure, but I believe that's part of the civil service.
Right, yes, yes.
Outside of the civil service.
I can answer that question.
You have to know the salary that you're gonna
Yes.
pay and what benefits you're gonna pay before you make that motion.
Is there a
We're not
seniority?
saying you lie or not.
No,
Not for the chief of police position.
Yeah,
It's not
we
something
can't
that
just
should
make
be
a
done.
motion to appoint one this evening, because the mayor had, made a statement of wages, and these are all things that are gonna have to be discussed, okay? So you can't we can't appoint anybody and say, you're gonna take this wage. 'Cause number one, we
Right.
don't know what that wage is.
No one has apparently spoken to anyone else to see if they would
And
be
we don't
willing.
know what this wage would be, so these are things that would have to be talked about. Number one, what are we gonna pay this new chief? To sort of help out here
Right.
at the same time, okay, no matter who this new chief would be. And we, and you have to still have applicants. You all could be sitting here saying to appoint Mr. Hacker as chief, and
Maybe he doesn't want it.
after listening to everything, he might be saying, are you kidding me? So we must have applicants to see who is interested, and believe me, we're not gonna turn our head on any of them. Okay, I believe it's just something that has to be, to make it fair.
As a member, as a member of the Civil Service Commission, let me help you out.
Advertise within the department, yes.
I'm sorry, Lucy, what was that again?
Could the motion be amended to advertise it within the department so you can garner who is interested and who is not?
With it or without it, the same motion covers
Yeah.
both scenarios.
As a member of,
Go ahead, Kathy.
as a member of the Civil Service Commission, let me help you out.
Okay.
You can appoint an interim chief while you do your search for a full-time chief, but you must advertise the position. And you must negotiate. You have to have it.
With that person.
Yes, you have to have interviews. You have to negotiate with the person. You have to go through the whole process.
That we should be undertaking
Yes.
tonight.
Yes.
I agree.
And that was my point, that we can't just jump in.
You just don't jump in.
The motion's to advertise the position. It's not to, because I believe there was some comments made here, well, why don't we just appoint, Corporal Hacker right now?
The motion was to find out what the process is for us to do this.
Mm-hmm.
The
Can-
job description
can we
is
amend
posted
it that
within
we-
side, and then see them is interested, and then if they are, interview them, and then they would negotiate stuff like that, but they have to do it.
Am I under the understanding that we have to have one in place? Or
No.
are we good with?
Right now, we still have, the situation we have right now is an officer in charge, which has been the case since March 1st, after the retirement of Chief
Okay.
Weaver.
How long is the contract then, the new contract? What would that be
Which
for?
contract?
The new chief contract.
New chief.
That have to be negotiated.
There wasn't, for the previous chief, there wasn't a contract.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
All right.
What was that?
The only
That will.
discussion of contracts was with respect to, the proposed new position.
Borough council can hire him on Tuesday and fire him on Wednesday.
Right.
It's a tough position.
Right.
You're giving up a lot of, protection with the FOP, being a chief.
Before anybody leaves, I'd like to formally invite everybody back here on April 17th, so hopefully we have this resolved by the next council meeting. We meet on the first and third Tuesdays of every month. So April 17th will be the next one, so I hope that we can get this good of a turnout next, or 2 Tuesdays from now, and hopefully get what the community wants and get what the police department wants. I'd like to see all your faces back here.
I honestly don't know that this is gonna be,
No.
that's gonna happen within a 2-week period.
It most likely won't.
Yeah, it could take longer than that.
You need to
Yeah,
advertise.
I'm not proposing that anybody suggesting an unnaturally long delay, but I don't think it's gonna be a 2-week.
We're still under question, but here's the process. So what happens is we find out how we need to do it legally, and how we need to advertise in-house, post it, get what we get, go through the interviews and negotiations, and talk with all these folks internally, or wherever, and just go from there.
Right.
It takes time.
Any other questions from council regarding the motion, which again is to get a list of job description and advertise for a full-time chief?
We're gonna advertise in-house.
We're gonna advertise for a full-time chief.
In the newspaper?
You have to.
Tom, you have
You
to
have
for
to.
civil service.
You have to, but if one of our, what they're saying is, they're gonna listen to us One of the internal officers is qualified.
They would have advertised in the paper.
I mischaracterized your motion, Jen. Did I?
He should know.
Yeah, he should know.
My motion was ask Jeff Stewart to draft what the basic qualifications would be in conjunction, I guess, with Public Safety Committee for the Tamaqua Police Department chief. And once we develop those qualifications, based on what he or Attorney Greek would say, whether or not we need to post it internally, post it externally, or whatever. But we need to come up with a job description and a qualification.
What is past precedence on how you appointed chiefs? Did you advertise it in the paper?
I think they did.
Yes.
I haven't been here long enough.
I can remember one that was
Weaver was just.
Weaver was appointed. He wasn't
advertised.
He wasn't advertised. You promoted within.
Yeah, I can't remember Weaver's, of course, I wasn't here, but I know before.
Go back and look in the minutes of the
Before
meeting.
Weaver, it was advertised, okay, because I know there was a whole.
But Chief Weaver's position as chief was not advertised. It was promoted within.
The last time, yes, I can't.
Maybe you could look back on those, I know you weren't here, maybe look back and see how that was done.
I remember at one point the borough was going to hire an outside.
Yep.
That was back with Mattson.
That was before Weaver.
That was back at Mattson.
That was Mattson.
That was Mattson, but like I'm saying, so there definitely is a presence where I do believe, I don't know, that you do have to advertise.
There was another officer, he was from Kutztown.
Back at Mattson, when Mattson was made chief.
Yeah, before Weaver got it.
But Weaver was appointed.
All right,
But
well, let's
Weaver was
move on
appointed.
from that.
Okay.
Let's continue with what we got to do.
The vote.
So maybe what we would have in 2 weeks, Mayor, is we would have the qualifications.
So as long as we're taking positive steps towards what our constituents and voters.
You're welcome.
So the motion is to develop a list of qualifications, or job description for the full-time police position. And I'm still unclear on advertising.
I'm gonna, at that point, I mean, maybe, once we have that, I guess we know, then we can make the decision. Do we have, based on Jeff's advice, should we advertise to cover ourselves, or do we not advertise?
Okay, so right now then the motion is just to develop a list of qualifications and job descriptions.
That would be fine.
I thought we were friends. Yes.
I'm not, not to advertise. Let's just get the qualifications down, then we can determine which direction we can
Any other questions or comments from council regarding the motion?
I think we have a list of, I think we have in the police department, a job description for the police.
You have. You do. You have.
Get Jeff Stewart involved at $200 an hour, to come up with another job description.
Yeah.
$200.
Yes, we do. You have to.
I'm sure there is somewhere, but I'm not sure where it is. It's just,
I need to know how to do it right and legally.
It's gonna be in a personnel manual.
I'll send it to you.
There you go. I think Kathy might have something.
Should be in a binder. Personnel manual. That's okay. I'll be glad to give you the job description for police chief that the Civil Service Commission has.
There you go.
There you go, you don't have to pay for it.
You don't gotta pay for it.
You can take out whatever you want out of it.
Yeah.
That's common sense. So I don't think we need to get another job description for the chief.
wouldn't hurt to look at it, and maybe revise it, update it. We're supposed to look at it periodically and revise it.
Let him do this. They're still gonna pay somebody $200 to go.
Good, take a vote.
The motion stands?
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions or comments from the floor regarding the motion?
Well, I believe, Councilman Kara said you'd be saving $200 if you didn't get that gentleman involved to do the job description. So I think that's a money saving thing. If you already have a job description, you might want to do it amongst yourselves or with Attorney Greek, but.
Whether we create one or use one that's existing and because it hasn't been used in at least 5 years, we'll be asking the professional to.
But don't you have
review
it?
it.
How long ago was
Beg your
it?
pardon?
5 years.
Jeff Stewart is an attorney.
Yeah, we have to pay our attorney.
Okay,
I
so
was just going off of what Mr. Kara said, that you'd be saving $200
I
if you
don't
didn't have to do
know
that.
what Mike's rate is, but he's gonna, regardless of whether Mike reviews it or another attorney reviews it, there will still be a charge.
Why does he have to review it?
All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Roll call vote.
Bowman?
Yes.
Kara?
No.
Connolly?
Yes.
Evans?
Yes.
Linkovich? Yes. Linkers?
Yes.
Mays?
Yes. Is there anything else for public safety?
No, I believe that's probably not.
Okay.
Good night.
The good part.